RFK Jr.'s, what would we call it? What do we want to call it? The spectacle of RFK Jr.'s appearance before the Senate. We know that this man represents the all-out assault on expertise. There was this wonderful moment with Bernie Sanders where Senator Sanders, where he listed all of the professional medical organizations who support the efficacy of vaccines and vaccinations. And then he all of those folk, we need to deny their expertise and accept what, RFK Jr. and his cabal of folk are saying. Right? And this is part of it's a feature of American life, a kind of leveling where people who have spent their lives studying a subject are no different than somebody who just simply looks it up on Wikipedia or allows or some AI search or something. And so we have this leveling that actually makes it difficult to hold folk accountable because anyone can be an expert in our current days. But what have we seen in the close to 7 months of RFK Jr.'s appointment as Secretary of Health and Human Services, right? We've seen a lukewarm endorsement of the measles vaccine in the midst of a measles outbreak. We've seen the dismantling of a panel of experts who recommend vaccines, who are charged for vaccine recommendations to government. We've seen efforts to restrict access to COVID-19 vaccinations. And that moment with Senator Mark Warner, where Senator Warner just asked a basic question: would you agree that 1 million people died because of COVID? And you got this hesitation on the part of RFK Jr. And that's a smack in the face to all of these folk, all of the people who lost people in the pandemic, all of those empty chairs, all the folk who ain't sitting around dinner tables or sharing a movie in the TV room, or people that people can't say I love you to anymore. This man is playing fast and loose with their dead, with our dead, right? And it makes it all the more egregious that in the aftermath of a pandemic that left so many dead and so many grieving, I think, as I've said before in the weekly wrap-up, that our politics actually reflects the unresolved trauma of what we've been through as a nation. That in the aftermath of that experience, that we would allow these people to literally dismantle any sense of public health policy, to dismantle any sense that the government has a responsibility to ensure the health of its people. Now, mind you, I am as critical of the food industry and the pharmaceutical industry as the next person, but that doesn't lead me to become an anti-vaxxer. I worry about all of these processed foods and its relationship to diabetes and hypertension and all of this. I worry about the pharmaceutical industry, right? Prescribing drugs for every ailment, right? Where in so many ways, the healthcare industry and the pharmaceutical, they make profits off of sickness and death. I think that's wrong. But that doesn't lead me to embrace the nonsense, the idiocy of what RFK Jr. is doing, right? Now, I want to link that, right, to the unemployment numbers, that we just got out today. Look, unemployment is rising. 22,000 jobs, right, only added in August. We see payroll gains revised down for June and July. We shed 13,000 jobs in June, the first job losses since December 2020, when we were in the depths of the pandemic. And then when you look deeper in the numbers, what have we seen? Black unemployment, 6%, jumped to 6.5%, right? Now, 7.1%. Now it's 7.5%, right? Black folk, canary in the mine. There's trouble in the air. There's trouble in the air. And it's rooted in incompetence. It's rooted in incompetence. these tariffs, these folk who are trying to reorder the economy on the basis of their own greed and grift, right? Right? Incompetence, right? Incompetence as they are engaging in the ideological work of what? Deconstructing the administrative state. Deconstructing the administrative state as what they're trying to expand executive power. Incompetent. Now, mind you, as I said last week, I should say some of these folk are incompetent. But the trains are running on all the tracks. No matter what Donald Trump and some of these folk are saying, there are folks behind the scenes, right, who are doing these things for very clear and deliberate reasons. All the trains are moving. All of them are moving, right? So the assault on expertise, right, is in part an attempt, as I've said before, right, to block the way to hold people accountable, to gum up any attempt to hold these folk accountable. They don't want an informed citizenry. They don't want an informed citizenry, right? So we get the spectacle of Kennedy, right, in front of the Senate, which lets us know that even if you aren't on the political spectrum, even if you're just self-interested, right, this healthcare policy is putting us all in danger. What's going on in Florida? That idiot is going to just simply no longer mandate, right, vaccines in Florida. That means even if you are committed to making sure that your children are vaccinated against measles and mumps and chickenpox and the like, they're going to go to school with people who aren't. Right? I mean, think about that. The country will be put in danger because of these folk. And then you see the impact on the economy, right? The impact on the economy of policies that are really aimed at, in so many ways, not speaking to the circumstances of everyday working people, but is part of an ongoing grift. Oligarchs, billionaires, trying to, in so many ways, deepen their pockets. I hope that made sense. But we saw the Kennedy spectacle. We see the job numbers. And then, of course, what else happened this week? We get the news. We got that Epstein press conference of all the group of women who want the files released. Now, I see a connection. It's because I'm crazy, I suppose. I see a connection between the idiocy of RFK Jr.'s healthcare policy, what seems to me to be the dismantling of the economy, what's looming, the shadows looming over the economy of the United States, and that presser, because at the heart of it is the country elected a fraud. The country elected someone, a carnival barker. The country elected a convicted felon, right? Who sees an opportunity to deepen his own pockets and the pockets of his family. And here you have women who've suffered horrible abuses, right? Suffered horrible abuses, right? Being played like pawns on a chessboard, right? Who demand the release of the files. Now, there's the political spectacle of it all. Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ro Khanna, I get that, right? But then there's the lives of those women, right? Who said that if they don't release the list, they're going to compile a list of their own. Now, mind you, with Marjorie Taylor Greene saying she could read it on the House floor, because if they do release that, they're going to be subject to suit. Folks are going to try to destroy their lives. But part of what we're seeing is an effort to hold folk accountable. That story, let me just be clear, the Epstein story is not going away, no matter what Trump tries to do, because it's at the heart of his base. It's at the heart, that story a cabal of pedophiles that run government, that's part of the deep state and the like, right? That story's not going away because it has driven so much of the anger and anxiety of the very people who put the con artist in office. So let's keep track of the Epstein story. It has legs. It's not going away. You could fly jets over during the press conference. You can declare that you're going to change the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War. But the story's still going to have legs. Trust me. Because Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene and others can see daylight between the base and Donald Trump. I'm not saying that these folk are going to somehow turn on Trump because, how can I put this? MAGA and political identities are bound up with how people understand themselves, right? It's not just simply a matter of rational decision making, right? It's really tied to who people take themselves to be. So it's not like a disagreement with Trump is going to lead to a wholesale change and these people are going to suddenly start voting for progressive policy. That's not going to happen. But what we do know is that some people won't be as afraid to buck up against Trump and his foe. We see this with Marjorie Taylor Greene and Massey, of course, and a few others, right? So there are going to be those who are going to challenge it, right? Who are going to resist this idea that it's just simply a hoax because they know their base doesn't believe it's a hoax. But, let's just turn really quick. I don't want to take too much of your time. But we got this thing with this change of the name. We got change from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Now change from Department of Defense to the Department of War. He wants to go all the way back to 1789 and George Washington. 150 years or so, I think, the department was called a Department of War. And it was part of, in a way, at a certain point, the imperial ambition of the nation. And it makes sense. The man is in so many ways cosplaying Teddy Roosevelt and others, right? Then his mercantilist economic policy, it's almost as if he wants to throw us back into the 19th century, right? And, the idea that it's the Department of War as opposed to the Department of Defense. This is the manly man's Department of Defense. These people are so silly. They want to walk around, showing their pecs and their lats, and I'm the Secretary of the Department of War. I'm a manly man, Pete Hegseth might say. Right. And, there's a sense in which the change to the Department of Defense in 1947, post-World War II, right? The use of soft power that comes with that shift, I think, although America has been in some form of war, engaged in some form of war for generations, Trump is just explicit. Now, mind you, he wants to change the name from the Department of Defense to the Department of War against the backdrop of the theater of what we just saw in China, right? The gathering of autocrats, the display of military power on the part of the country of China. What are these people doing? What are these people doing? It's almost as if we're as Mitch McConnell said in a recent interview in Lexington, that we should be worried because there are these elements of our current days that remind him of the 1930s, right, in the run-up to World War. Right? Now he's bombing, boats off the coast of Venezuela, right? Some summary execution of folk that they think trafficking cocaine. Right? Not trying to capture them and try them, but to just simply kill them. There's nothing legal about that. There's nothing legal about that, y'all. Right? So, they want to change the name of the Department of Defense because they want to change the story. They want to get the Epstein presser off the front page and the like. The spectacle of Kennedy did it, and now this. Right? it is, we are in some trying times, y'all. We are in some trying times. You know that. I don't need to say it or say it again. We need to look at what's going on, keep our eye on what's going on in D.C., another story that you need to keep track of. Um, you know, judge in D.C., forcefully criticized the surge of police in the district. We're witnessing grand juries refusing to indict people that they're bringing forward, kind of jury nullification practice. But the judge was very forceful in the critique that they're arresting people for felons and then slow walking, bringing the case to court, leaving people to languish in jail. This is not democracy. This isn't democracy. Get a U.S. appeal court blocking a decision to shut down alligator, quote unquote, alligator Alcatraz. Just mean-spiritedness, a kind of the darker angels of the nation running rampant. And you know who's behind? Who's at the heart of this surge of police in D.C.? Stephen Miller. Washington Post reported it. Stephen Miller. There's something about this man. This man who hasn't been elected once, orchestrating all of this nastiness. Someone needs to bring him out of the shadows and begin to really delve deeply in what motivates, right, the mean-spirited nature of Stephen Miller and his embrace of policies that cut against the grain of any idea, reasonable idea of democracy. And that leads me to what I want to end with. It's an interesting moment. I'm thinking about Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri, who recently spoke at the nationalist conservatives gathering, and it was disturbing. I want you to think about what Senator Schmidt said and what J.D. Vance said on July 5th at the same place, the same organization. Senator Schmidt said that the rightful descendants, that the true Americans, in effect, are the rightful descendants of European settlers. He rejected the idea that America is the American idea as some abstract and vaguely defined proposition. That's his language. Instead, we were a nation and a people with its own distinct history and heritage and interest. Right? Again, just like J.D. Vance on July 5th, he's making a claim that America is not just simply driven by the ideals. It's not just simply a beacon of freedom, right? A country of laws, right? It's not just simply the Declaration of Independence. What grounds the country is blood and soil. Blood and soil. Americans, he said, are the sons and daughters of the Christian pilgrims that poured out from European shores to baptize a new world in an ancient faith. Guys, this is the rhetoric of the 1920s. And remember, the rhetoric of the 1920s inspired Hitler. He cites America as the example in Mein Kampf. We always tend to demonize him, to represent Germany and Hitler as the example of the evil. Remember, he was looking to us, right, for resources. I'm not making that up. It's the truth. And so what Senator Schmidt said, right, in front of this organization that says that the U.S. is in some ways lacking cohesion, right, because of immigration, because of diversity and the like, right, that we don't have a sense of the tribe that is at the heart of who we take ourselves to be as a nation, right? They want to assert, right, an idea of the American people, right, that, right, demonizes the immigrant, that rejects the the metaphor of Ellis Island, right, and has really no interest in people that look. It's deeply and profoundly, right, disturbing. Right? It's an assertion of a certain kind of Anglo-Saxonism that should really unsettle anyone who's committed to democracy. But I wanted to end here in order to note the connection, because, some people will say he went straight Nazi-con, right, at this convention, at this gathering. But there's a direct correlation between what Senator Schmidt said the other day and what J.D. Vance said the day after the 4th of July. And these folk are in government. One is in the lines of the presidency. We have to wake up, y'all. We have to wake up and see there's a white nationalist project at work. It's a white nationalist project at work. And they're being very explicit in what they're saying. America is more than just simply a set of principles. It's more than an idea rooted in the Declaration of Independence and evidenced in the preamble of the Constitution. America is blood and soil. And they would say, we're not talking about blood. Yes, they are.